ultimately, what I've come to realize from Sailor that I talked about at the end of last podcast as well is if you zoom out and you take off what you want to be true about the world and you just see what is true about the world, what we know is that Bitcoin payments have not taken off yet. Doesn't mean it won't happen, doesn't mean we can't help. But what we do know is Bitcoin is collateral. And if you understand the broader financial ecosystem and how the world actually works and how it might work in the future, you can start to see where that collateral really starts to matter. And like, as I
Real quick though, I mean, first of all, I'm an enormous believer in Bitcoin as collateral,
right.
but I mean, I wouldn't say it's taken off yet either.
I mean,
I think the problem is it'll take off sooner than payments, but
what's the MicroStrategy market cap right now? Like pretty massive, I would say. Whatever. I can go and look. And yes, it's still in the early stages of takeoff. What I'm increasingly realizing that
what do you mean by collateral though? I thought I was thinking like you use it as collateral for a loan.
well, you can use it for collateral for lots of things, right? So we've seen it definitely take off as collateral for like consumer lending. And every time that's happened, there's been re-up obligations blowing up. That's why we invested in Lava. Fingers crossed. We don't see that happen again now. But what he's basically realizing is like, he made this point where he was like, listen, instead of going to all the banks of the world, and he made this point, he was like Morgan Stanley or whatever, I think it was, funded the Civil War. Like, probably not going to go and just like upend power structures that old. Every once in a while, maybe, but probably not. And instead of going and saying, I've got this new bank and y'all should come bank with me or whatever, he's like, how do I take what I've found, which is this incredible, pristine digital capital, refine it into a form of collateral or credit that they can use to be successful? And one thing that he said that really stuck with me is the world is built on capital, but it runs on credit. And so what I think he's realizing here is the big, put aside what we want to see about the world, the really, really big business opportunities measured purely in total volume or total profit is if you can go and take that old dying world structure and supercharge it with collateral and credit that are backed by Bitcoin, then you will make the most money. And so what I'm realizing is, I'm starting to intuitively understand better what he's doing when he means stripping volatility. He is speculative attacking the old world treasury market, which is crazy to me, by offering stretch. Stretch is the key, this 11% yield that all you have to believe if it's 6x over collateralized by Bitcoin is that Bitcoin's not going to drop whatever it is, 85, 90% for 4 years or whatever that period is. That's all you have to believe, which I think we all clearly do. And if you do believe that, then like you would be a fool not to buy the product that gives you 11% or, maybe it comes down 10%, 9% versus 3% or 4% in the old world. Like, it's just like, it's like so black, white, right? That's all you have to believe. And so
But
increasingly,
it's not so black and white. It's more gray because
why?
you why do you buy 11% yield if you believe Bitcoin is going to return 30 or 40% for the next 10 or 20 years? Why would you buy 11% yield?
Because you have to meet the old existing world structure where it is. And I think this is his genius. Like, this is one of his grand insights.
It's a bridge, yeah.
I feel like I'm getting more mature listening to Sailor. Like, younger me would have been like, no, fuck it. We're just going to like upend everything, flip the tables. Here we come, Bitcoin, everything. And it's like, maybe, but like realistically, what's going to happen is we're going to say old world structure. First of all, and increasingly, this is why I understand why I think he's frustrated some Bitcoiners. It's like, you don't even want that world. Like, it sounds romantic and like a libertarian Ayn Rand fantasy. But like, if you go and flip all the tables, do you want to live in Mad Max? Probably not. Like as much as we say the government is bad, the state is bad, power structures are bad, it's like, what's even worse? A power vacuum where all of a sudden you got people riding around with like whatever rifles and shit. So
to put simply though, like to answer the question, why stretch over buying Bitcoin?
Yeah.
People have different needs, right? And I'll get someone just asked, do you own Stretch Max? You don't have to answer that, but I'll speak to
all of the Bitcoin he owns is Stretch.
ETFs only.
Yeah, but like a treasury, like so the money that Presidio Bitcoin has on hand.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a belief in Bitcoin. There's a belief in like 30% returns or whatever. But there's actual needs for dollars. We have liabilities in dollars in weeks, months type of time frame. So we don't want to be all in on Bitcoin. We need something less volatile. So some of it is in Bitcoin and some of it is in Stretch.
Yes.
So So Presidio Bitcoin does hold stretch.
And to give you, so the bigger pools of capital, which we've talked about, is we all know someone who's very involved with that company because he can't buy Bitcoin at his giant public equity fund. He just can't. And so there's, I forgot we did the numbers last time, but like, what is like a third of the world's capital is sitting in like public equity funds or something huge that can't buy that. A third is sitting in the debt funds or whatever. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but like the point is like really, really, really big slugs of capital.
Yeah, there's capital pools that are locked up with mandates.
That are
They
locked
have
up
a
with
mandate,
mandates.
and they have to
Exactly.
they have to play within that mandate. And so those mandates are sticky,
Yes.
and that's what creates the opportunity to create products that fit in those mandates.
Correct.
And so like the thing that I would say about MicroStrategy that I think is interesting is that like it just understands how the world is structured today,
Yes.
and where
Yes.
the mandates are, and then it provides products that fulfill those mandates, even if you don't fully get to self-custody your Bitcoin because of the mandate of the capital pool that you're managing.
And I would say there's also sort of a gradation of that, right? I think there are some people that, maybe are super orange pilled, sitting and managing, billions, if not trillions of dollars that are locked up in funds that can't buy Bitcoin. Okay. So that's one area you go after. And then there's also people like, let's say on the middle of the curve that are like, they think it's interesting. It's probably not going to zero. Are they ready to sell their kidney? Probably not. But like, would they like some exposure? Yeah. Like I guess like there's different people at different stages on their Bitcoin journey with different mandates. And critically, those people manage much larger pools of capital than, we as the general public, frankly, even like realize exists. And I think what Saylor's superpower is he's kind of the, the elder statesman in the room that for whatever reason, he's still on the edge with technology and he understands why Bitcoin is amazing. And he's been, frankly, old enough and been through the traditional world enough that he understands that world extremely well. And he's building a bridge between the new and the old. And by sitting on that bridge and building that bridge, and I thought it's very instructive. People always ask him, well, what's next? What are you going to do with all this Bitcoin? He's like, dude, you don't understand. Like, if I can bring 10% of the world's, bond market to me, I am making whatever it is, trillions of dollars a year in revenue with basically no cost. So it's almost pure profit. It would be the single greatest business of all time. Now, I think the AI businesses can overcome that. And I think that's a separate conversation. I think, by the way, there's risk that maybe he's not even fully buying into, which is the black swan risk of like AGI, super intelligence take off. And that's its own really interesting conversation that we should discuss.
You're saying that we no longer need money.
I mean, that's a possibility
So
from your favorite dude you fawn over, but
I wouldn't say that he was wrong if that's the case. If we don't need money, then like the whole thing, it's just like a waste of time, right?
Right. But again,
you're not sad at the end of that path.
What I want to come back to and just say on that is like, I think what a lot of Bitcoiners miss is, this dude, put aside the way he communicates it, which could probably be a little nicer sometimes, but this dude understands the old world and he knows how to build that bridge and he knows what they need. And I think he said something really nice, which is instead of fighting the old world, empower them to win and win a big chunk. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. I've always thought of Bitcoin as a tool of alchemy for selfishness and self-interest to sort of communal interest. It's a way to get people to say, hey, instead of me just taking your shit, which is kind of the history of like power and war and world, it's like, let me make you an equity holder in the same thing I'm an equity holder in, and let's win really big together.
Yeah. And Bitcoin's ultimately equity for the whole world.
Exactly.
For the whole world's needs and demands.
It's an equity of the entire world's capital stock.
And so I didn't watch the whole episode, but I only watched that one clip that I think was quite contentious. But what I've learned something new from that clip, which I think I changed my mind about in the last year or so, which is I had thought of MicroStrategy as like effectively the leader and kind of the dominant player in the Bitcoin treasury thing, and that sort of all the others are sort of ankle biters and, sort of competitors in a sense. And I think he articulated there that it's not a competition, it's more of a collaboration. So it's effectively that same point you're making. He didn't quite say it as eloquently as I think we've come up here, which is sort of, some sort of like a equity in the world's future and all of the economic output of the world. But I think that's what he's scratching at here when he talks about Metaplanet being not a competitor, but a collaborator. So I've changed my mind on that.
So I still don't get that. So you're gonna have to help me. Now, we talked about in the show before, there's a couple different types of treasury strategies.
Yeah.
We called it the strategy one and the block one, right?
Yeah.
Because both strategy and block introduced Bitcoin on their balance sheet within a month of each other in 2020.
Yep.
I think most people know what strategy is, like leverage, like smart
Yep.
calculated leverage, but leverage. Whereas the block strategy is like put 1 to 10% of your treasury in Bitcoin as like a hedge. And those two have very different dynamics.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
totally believe in a world of we're all in this together. Let's invest in each other's like the same equity or whatever. If every company puts 1 to 10% of its treasury, or frank, I mean, even up to 100% of the treasury in Bitcoin, I don't see that they're not competing. Like if Tesla's doing that, SpaceX and Block, that doesn't like increase the competition between these companies just because they're holding Bitcoin balance sheet. However, if every company is levered over 100%, they're introducing all these securities like Stretch, etc., then they're absolutely competing with each other. And I've argued from the first episode of this show that it makes no sense for Facebook to do this, like Max was arguing, and
I still think it does.
well, it makes no sense to me. So A, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
B, I don't think every company can do it. I think only one or a handful can. And C, they're absolutely competing with each other. So help me understand how that's wrong.
So Steve, I'm team Steve on this point and have been for a long time, basically since episode 1, which is I don't think Facebook should just go all in Bitcoin because they have a great business or potentially great business. It has existed for a while.
They could do better with Bitcoin too.
Well, sure. But that's not what people are investing in. They're investing in, are they going to figure out AI? That is the question.
And also,
Facebook
when you say they do better
AI.
in Bitcoin, what do you mean by that? Do you think they should be levered on Bitcoin, or do you think should they adopt the strategy or the block strategy?
Okay, so let me answer that by saying, and look, I get what you're saying, and if your point is for a company specifically in the AI race that having anything to do with Bitcoin is going to detract from their ability to get capital to build energy infrastructure, which, by the way, that's where I want to go. We're probably not going to have time to the GPU marketplace deeply today, but like, look at who Meta's been hiring yesterday. Look at Daniel Gross's post on Twitter for what he wants. It's trading markets, energy infrastructure. So like, okay, fine. I'm willing to cede that point. If get any touching of Bitcoin, which by the way, I think they'll have to soon. That's my big idea now, will detract from their ability to win that race. Fine. What I would say, Steve, to your point is, and this is what I wanted to get at earlier that I learned new from the Sailor podcast, is there's not just the Sailor strategy and the block strategy. I think there's an infinite number of strategies in between. That's what I'm seeing more and more. So what he said yesterday, now, I would, obviously evaluate every treasury company independently. Most of them I think are probably run by teams I would not personally invest in, right? For sure. That's my decision as an investor. But we've already decided, does it make sense, as an example, for MetaPlanet to exist as alongside strategy? For sure, because they're in a trapped capital market, Japan. Taylor's not there.
Exactly.
So okay.
We all agree on that, though.
Yep. So the next thing that I learned from his podcast was that there are going to be infinite opportunities, and he rattled off like 10 of them, of where you can use better capital to offer a better product. So he's going after capital to credit. I know DK loves that.
I didn't think we were going to make it through this segment without an impression or two. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's for you. But what he also mentioned is there's other businesses where pristine digital capital or credit could make you a winner as well. One example is insurance. We're going to see an insurance company, and I bet, no insider info, whatever, but I think NYDIG's already pretty big in insurance. Wouldn't be surprised if they're the big winner there, ultimately, of figuring out how you can use having perfect, pristine collateral to underwrite cheaper policies or better policies. So there will be insurance companies that use Bitcoin.
And I don't think MicroStrategy is going to go after that.
He literally said that. People get whatever riled up listening to be whatever. Listen to what he says. He gave 10 ideas for a company. The problem is they're not ideas that we as kind of Silicon Valley computer buildery type people are used to.
Financial
ideas.
Right?
But my point,
those are real things you do.
Well, what I'm learning increasingly from learning from Sailor, and again, everyone has to make their own decision. Are you or I the right person to start that company? Absolutely not. Our efforts are much better spent doing things that are increasing, in my case, more on the energy side lately with builder stuff. Great. So everyone's doing their part. But what I'm increasingly learning from Sailor is if you just want to make money, put everything else aside, you just want to make money, go where the opportunity is ready. Is it ready for payments yet? No, we're trying to get there. We're betting on that future. We're trying to make it happen. What it is ready for is for people to say, if I have better capital, I can underwrite better financial products. So all kinds of loans, consumer lending, corporate lending, the
You mentioned
treasury
the real estate
market,
stuff. The real
real
estate stuff
estate
seems like
development.
one that,
Well,
like if you want,
we've
we
talked
talked
to
about those
companies
before.
doing that. So,
Yeah.
but I'm still trying to understand how they're not competitive. And I'm actually interested in, since Deacon I seem aligned.
I think we're mostly like, I don't think
I want
Block
I want
is a Bitcoin treasury company, even if they hold some Bitcoin treasury. I think that's
I would agree with
a
that too. I'm not
successful company
unaligned.
but
that's not structured in the like Bitcoin treasury style,
but
right?
help me understand how like 21 is not a competitor to strategy.
I think it's unrealistic to say not a competitor, but just that there's more collaboration than there might be in a traditional business. So like is Google a competitor to Facebook and vice versa? Are they? I would say they're pretty directly competitive. Do they ever collaborate? Like maybe at the margin on some little initiatives, but they basically don't collaborate. They
Well, let's
compete
use
with each other.
Apple. Can we use Apple and Google as an
Well,
example?
that's
Yeah.
it's thornier because of the recent, the
Not even
search
the recent
history
stuff.
deal and the
It's
I know
very
it's
like
years of search,
It's
billions
but
of
it's
very
actually
dollars of partnership.
it's Apple saying we're not going to develop a search engine. We'll get paid all the
or,
value as if we had developed
or
one.
we can't.
How do 21 and strategy partner or help each other?
I
How
think
does
they
like
help each other because they each own a lot of Bitcoin and their stated mission is to own more Bitcoin. They have different ways to go about that. And I think the strategy way to go about that is they probably have some huge sales force out there selling the digital credit product to
That's
various
the
people.
answer.
And my guess is that the CEP, whatever the 21 company, is not going to hire a team of people to go out and sell digital credit. They're trying to build products that generate cash flows, and those cash flows will either be received or converted into Bitcoin, and that will be the basis of a lot of
but
their treasury.